Welcome to Day Zero Update for April 13th, 2025. I'm your host, Chris Elogi.
And I'm Brandon Perkins.
Yeah, two-man crew this week, and it is a big week of news. We have a bevy of more Nintendo Switch 2 news.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly solving nothing for the most part. We're still in the same situation we were in last week of nothing, knowing nothing of what's going on, at least in trying to pre-order a Switch 2, anything like that. But we also had the Triple I Initiative showcase that has a bunch of cool stuff there. We'll talk about as well as a bunch of other news, a number of games getting dates and such, and a couple games that came out for Nintendo Switch coming to other platforms. So we'll talk about
Yep.
that here in a little bit. Before we do that, we'll talk about what we've been playing, and I'll kick it off here. I've been playing some Atomfall,
Mm-hmm.
the new Rebellion game
Yep.
that is on, I believe, PS5, Xbox, and PC, as well as Game Pass.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely a weird game. It's probably the most British game I've played in a while. At least since thank goodness you're here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Particularly because it is sort of set in an alternate universe where a nuclear accidents turned into a Chernobyl style event that has created this whole weird sci-fi version of it that has caused all these people in this chunk of the country to be sectioned off from the rest of England, and
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of a person who is just woken up on this in this bunker by a scientist, I guess, who has been attacked by some outlaws and kind of wakes you up, and you're sort of an amnesiac at this point, not really knowing what has been going on. Um, that's how they kind of teach you a little bit of basic tutorial stuff with gathering materials to craft a bandage for the guy. Though you could, I guess, have killed him or whatever. It's got a bit of open world survival, a little bit of stealth to it, a little bit of maybe some RPG style dialogue stuff, I guess.
Mm.
It's a little hard to kind of really describe what sort of game this is because it's the stealth is very inconsequential for the most part.
Mm.
You can sneak around and sneak up behind people and take them out, but you are going to have a hard time of taking out entire camps of people without at least alerting some people.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any whistle or rocks or anything you could throw to kind of take people away from groups that are walking around or anything. So yeah, and basically, if you kill somebody, there's easy ways to kind of keep anybody else from finding out. So basically, once you get out of the bunker area, you kind of get into this open space, and you meet up with the dude that's kind of just a friendly dude who's able to answer a bunch of your questions, and you kind of I can kind of go through this town nearby that's just abandoned, except for some outlaws that are walking around. I managed to take out a whole group of them by just punching them and hitting them with a bat I had, kind of thing. I was just going around because your quests are more investigative in nature, kind of investigating areas. And I found a note that was like, "Oh, there's this thing hidden here. Here's a key that you need to use." And gives you the direct coordinates, and you can kind of set a waypoint for it. I tried to go around and find it, and it just didn't really lead to anywhere. But I did find some dudes that I killed one or two of them and just ran away and hid, and they just kind of moved on pretty quickly.
Mm.
But nearby was a town that's kind of walled off. That as you go in, they recognize you're not one of the outlaws, so no harm, no foul. They just kind of let you go around and kind of tell you not to start trouble or anything. You kind
Mm-hmm.
of walk around and kind of you only talk to important people.
Mm.
Otherwise, there's a lot of random people that just don't matter in anything that's going on. But they direct you towards the town hall to talk to their leader, the military's leader that's essentially keeping the town safe, but also you run into at least one person that's like, so this is what it would have been like if the Nazis had taken over, this town instead. Where the military is just constantly harassing people and wanting to smoke out anybody with, you know, non-patriotic thoughts about the military that is taking care of things. But I went and talked to this guy, told him like what's up with me, and he's like, "Oh, if you hear anything, I hear there's something weird about this bakery. Feel free to go investigate and let me know what you find." Like, sure, whatever. I did a save right there, and just killed him. Just came up behind him, strangled him, killed a couple of guys that were nearby, and went outside the town, out of the building, and you like load into these areas. And so I went back out into the town, and uh, nobody was alerted or anything. So it's very much that kind of this is a siloed off area. So even the time I've gone around to talk to other people and explore the town and all that, nobody has like found this guy, and it hasn't come out as like a big thing that would necessitate maybe making me the bad guy or anything.
Mhm.
Times I've tried to you know be a stealthy guy and just take out these military people. The only times it went bad is when I was not paying attention and somebody else saw me take one of them out, kind of thing. And then that would be a point where you could still wander the town, but if you had any military nearby, they would aggro to you pretty quickly. Which I use the saves pretty liberally to go back and make sure I'm uh, not running into a situation where I've screwed up my time in this town, kind of thing. And yeah, kind of reached a point where I killed a number of people, but nothing that ever led to anything happening, changing in this town. The rest of the military people just did their patrols where they were at. There's just less in the areas where I took out a few people. You can't pick them up, as far as I can see, and like throw them in bushes. There's a little bit of hiding in bushes, but it's not as extensive as you might want in this kind of game. It's very specific kind of bushes of certain types of plants that you can get notification that you're hidden in. But if you have bandits or whoever roaming around and they run into you, then you're obviously going to be alerting them and all that. Um, that's kind of how the first encounter I had with outlaws kind of went, where they're just kind of walking around the immediate area where I was hiding in. I was walking around
Mhm.
as best I could and alerted one, and just like, all right, I guess I'll just try and see what I can do to kill all these guys, and
Mm.
took them out pretty easily. And as well as a result of just sneaking around a lot and just looking at all the areas I can, I'm basically full on a lot of the materials I use for crafting. Bandages for recovering health, and I have recipes now for a couple of type of weapons, like a nail bomb and one other type of explosive, as well as I forget what the last thing I have available is, some type of healing thing. This is the team that made or the same studio that made Sniper Elite, and they, instead of stamina, you have like your heart rate as a major thing that shows up. So when you're running for too long, your heart rate goes up, and then you start hearing a loud heartbeat as you're uh, been doing that for a while. So it kind of encourages you to kind of slow down at times. Um, but yeah, like you're kind of finding all these notes, and they give you little mysteries to try to solve, that kind of stuff. I went to the bar, the pub in town, and found a guy who's very much like, I need these notes that a couple people I know have, and I went out to the one area where the one was at, and talked to them, convinced them I wasn't a bad guy or anything, and
Mhm.
she was willing to do that. I was also able to barter which is not Fallout style in terms of you pick items to sell and you get credits and you can buy items from them. It's literal bartering where you have a kind of a little weight meter essentially that tips in one direction or the other depending on what you're putting in and trying to take from the other person kind of thing. So it can that can be a decent reason for hoarding a bit. Though I'm all often pretty full on my spots. Though just before the podcast, I was playing some more of it. And basically just like I'll just go back here to the area where I entered and take all the guns I've now acquired and bullets that I'm pretty full on for most of these weapons and just start killing everybody. At least the soldiers. And got to a good point where I killed all the ones that would aggro to the area I'm on in
Mm.
this part of the town and shooting them pretty well and taking them out. And just search the soldiers and get more ammo out of them, kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Pretty standard. It was till I fought. They have robots in this version of England. They have big giant
Mhm.
robot suits that I don't know if there's a person in it or not, if it's just an AI.
Ah.
But I was able to kind of take him out in a way that he was kind of stunned for a bit. You could
Mhm.
take out the battery in the back, but I was too far away to really deal with that. So as I got closer, I wasn't sure exactly how it worked. So the guy killed me, the robot, pretty easily there in a couple
Mm.
shots. But otherwise, I was pretty able to um, heal up pretty quickly with the bandages, and I had plenty of the materials to make more of that. Um, and they're pretty terrible shots, especially if you take your time and make your shots count. You can take them out pretty quickly in a shot or two,
Mhm.
depending on what kind of weapon you're using. There's like a sniper rifle that's it's not really a sniper rifle. You don't get like a good sight, like a scope or anything for it. It's kind of more just a longer range rifle.
Mhm.
In the way that this is set up, because yeah, this is set in like the 60s, I think, in England.
Yeah.
I think it's around the time that this actual accident happened, but obviously did not go in any way like the way it goes in this game.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's robots that are around. You got military, you got bandits running around. Oftentimes going around in groups, doing stuff. You have people that have traps set up in their town. I have a metal detector, so that's whenever I get close to a little box that's been buried, you have to pull that out, and it's weirdly sensitive the way that it works because it's if you get into like I got into this like almost like thorn edge maze kind of thing. And every time I got close to a wall, it just put the metal detector away because you're kind of holding it out, waiting for the strength meter to go up, but it also has these five um, little bulbs on it that are directional things, telling you to look in a specific direction. Which in like a little
Mm.
maze is a little tough to figure out if it's like in certain areas or what, because the way you're trying to look around and just go down the paths and all that. It was a little tough to do that, but otherwise, it's a pretty simple thing and gets you, extra materials or something, whatever's in there. So yeah, it's a pretty neat game. I would say maybe cohesively, it's not all that compelling. It's just like an interesting game to kind of poke at what's going on here, but I don't know that it's all that great as a stealth game. The story's not really all that interesting so far, but it's all, as I said, like investigative stuff. So you just get notes that have bits of information on it that you can follow the leads and kind of specifically go where it's asking you to go, but it doesn't necessarily put that on a compass or the map or anything super easily to know exactly where to go. Oftentimes you just know like, okay, I'm going in this direction. This should be in this general area, and kind of just have to hunt around for a thing to figure out where you need to go, that kind of stuff. So it's a feels a little aimless for what it is, but I'm sure as I put more time into it, it'll get a little more compelling. But for now, it's just kind of a decent fuck around kind of game.
Mhm.
So there's that Adam Fall. It's on Game Pass as well as PS5, Xbox, and PC.
Mm.
You can check that one out. I played some Blueprints, which is on uh, PS5, Xbox, PC, and I believe it's on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. So if you have that, you can check it out on either one of those. It
Mm.
is, I would probably say it's like a puzzle adventure game,
Yeah.
essentially, the way that it's set up. It's,
Yeah, and I've been like the game critics have been going crazy over this game over the last couple of days, and I'm like, I was like, okay, I definitely need to give this a shot, seeing it's on PSN and everything. But like you said, it's an adventure puzzle game or something.
yeah, kind of a roguelite, one of those. So the basic premise is that I believe your uncle has passed away and has like given you this house. I forget what the specifics are.
Mm.
Um, but there's rules about it because it is not, a normal house. Um, it is a house that essentially resets itself every day. So they have rules for like, you can't stay on the property
Mm.
overnight. But you're trying to get from the entrance area to the antechamber in the back. It's like and you're looking at three doors in the entrance area, and you can pick any of them to go through. And when you do that, you have to pick one of three rooms that it presents to you to
Mm.
put in that room. So you can get rooms that are dead end rooms that will, not allow you to open any more doors in that direction.
Mm.
Some that will be hallways essentially that will have an opening on the other side, on the other end of the room, or
Mm.
ones that have three or four um, exits to it. So you have different types of that, or you have ones that are L shaped essentially that will go off in one direction to your left or to your right, depending on how the layout is. And the grid on that which that all these rooms are placed as you're going through doors is I think a 5 by 9 grid, where you're basically trying to get from uh, one that's in the middle on the bottom row to the room that's on the middle at the top. And in each room, you often find um, some sort of information or some sort of um, item that can help you, whether it be keys that can unlock doors, because as you get further into the grid, closer to the antechamber, they call them levels essentially. The further you get in the levels, the more likely doors will be locked and require keys. Um, there are gems, so you may get rooms that are presented to you that might require one or two gems to them. And there's also coins, which you may run into a couple of shops or other rooms that may cost a coin to go into whenever you do it. The other thing is that you have 50 steps to get through to the end. You use a step when you enter a room. Um, so don't fuck around in the doorway. You can waste it just going back and forth if you're not paying attention. But yeah, as I said, each room usually has some sort of item or information in it. There's bespoke items that can help you out in a number of ways through um, giving you extra things you can do, like a shovel that lets you dig up these dirt mounds you find, or a sledgehammer that can break the locks on little lock boxes you find every once in a while.
Mm.
Um, to a variety of things. I'm not gonna spoil the amount that there are. There's a bunch of them, but you will run into special rooms that are sort of function based, where there's one that um, will bring all the like keys and gems and coins to that room that you've missed.
Mm.
Um, there are some that will um, allow you to, like, one lets you redo the slate of rooms you've been presented. It's literally a drawing room.
Mm-hmm.
So that you get like one free uh like refresh of rooms and all that. And as you go through, you find like little notes and such. There's some basic ones that are very tutorial style. They look like postcard kind of stuff. But you'll find others that are like, oh, this side of the building has more locked doors than this side of than the other side of the building, or tell you information, and you don't necessarily know like are these telling the truth or not. So you might have to find specific rooms that will have other notes that'll tell you like, oh, these kind of memos are telling the truth, and these other ones are telling lies.
Mm-hmm.
And to keep that in mind, as well as notes that might have clues in them for, you might find safes elsewhere. And you might not know the key, the code for that, or you might find computers that have passwords that are needed. You might not know that stuff, and so what I've been doing since I'm playing on PS5 is essentially taking screenshots of every note I find as a means of just having this stuff accessible. Um, there is a note you get that's like, oh, maybe you want to keep a journal or something, or a piece of paper to write down notes and such. And it's like, screw that. I'll just take
Mm-hmm.
screenshots of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And can you be like, oh, I found this item, and oh, there's this note that seems like this would be perfect for it, and that stuff is tend to be uh, steady between each run.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you're kind of building up a reservoir of knowledge of things, and that's maybe one of the things I maybe wish randomized a bit. Not necessarily that you had to maybe have to draft specific rooms
Mm-hmm.
to get the updated versions of it, but that a thing might change over time, kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing. Versus, well, I know this code, and so until I get the room that it goes to, I just have to remember that code because it'll never change. But there are certain rooms that are puzzle rooms that have um, specific puzzle mechanics to it that change each time you approach them,
Mm-hmm.
and usually those will give you, keys or gems or maybe some other special items that can be useful. Um, but yeah, you'll run into a variety of rooms here, and it's pretty useful early on to just pick new rooms where it makes sense. Don't just like block yourself off with dead end rooms right away just to end runs and see new things. Because when you're done with a day, it'll show you the map out of all the rooms you've laid down and all that, and um, that'll make let you kind of see the depth of what you've done, and it'll give you stats like you've seen 3 new rooms this run. You've done this many steps and gathered this much stuff. I did find like a library room that has a book in it that is just here's stats for your entire run, and it's like maybe after you discover this should just show up in another area, maybe the entrance area at some point. But it's one of those kind of games where that is the kind of the big thing is just kind of exploring these areas. You'll find rooms that maybe allow you to um, stash things for future runs, or buy stuff for things that will help out later in your runs when you have things line up. But it definitely feels like a game where uh, things kind of have to line up pretty perfectly to really progress,
Mm-hmm.
versus like trying to get the main thing you're trying to do to see credits. But there's also a lot of little bits of story and such you can find throughout. It might give you a better idea of like the nature of your uncle's house and the nature of the family tree of sorts and the various people that have been part of this and what they've been doing, because you can probably understand that the sort of person that runs or owns a house like this that makes it a part of his personality has a lot of weird shit going on with them. um and then that's definitely a big thing, and so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you kind of see a lot of the ways that this game starts to, as you progress further into it, start opening up other areas and how it opens up what you think of as just the game to more parts of this place, this house, and other ways to um, tweak the way that it's um, randomly adding stuff to every room and to what kind of rooms will drop in your, it kind of is like a deck builder kind of game, but you're not really ever managing a deck. It's just the nature of what rooms are available to you. And so I guess the big thing I've seen is like maybe the rooms you don't like, use them early on, where they don't screw you over. And you can kind of try to play the odds of pulling out the rooms you do like later on in the in the run,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's got a good stuff too. It's but I've also seen people, you know, talk about this game like it's a mind blowing puzzle game, and I haven't really had that moment yet. So I've found neat things about it. And things I won't spoil for anybody that's just starting. It's things that kind of add new wrinkles to it, but none of that's been hugely like mind blowing to me just yet. But I know there's other things going on, especially if you play around with the UI and look around what you have access to. Because you do have a section of the UI that is just like here's all the various rooms. Maybe there's certain rooms that are secret rooms that you maybe don't have access to at some point, or you will have access to later on if you progress, mysteries and such that are happening here and all that. And yeah, it's kind of a bit tough to explain the kind of depth that this game can have to it, though I don't think it's has a huge amount of depth to it. 'Cause yeah, as like a people have been talking about just as a puzzle game or in the vein of like an Outer Wilds, and I think Outer Wilds has kind of much different and more interesting vibes to it because you're kind of like, oh, this is a kind of cozy universe of really wild stuff going on and really kind of wild puzzles and such to solve. But the puzzles aren't necessarily about just um, this like roguelite thing. There's not really a roguelite thing to it. It's just you have, X amount of minutes to explore wherever you're going to go and you
Mm-hmm.
try to push your understanding of what's going on there and maybe solve mysteries that way. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of just a pretty basic using the roguelite structure for this kind of puzzle adventure game. I call it an adventure game because it's a lot of static puzzles that you're trying to solve. It's just a matter
Mm-hmm.
of whether the the way that it's randomly adds items to parts of the map or extra keys or gems or whatever to parts of the map is like the only thing that keeps you from solving those things more easily and more straightforward way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of the roguelite nature is kind of more heading it out a little bit, not in a negative way, but just in the way that it wants you to have this stuff play out. Um, so yeah, it's a very neat game. I'm definitely going to keep playing more of it. I've gotten a couple times to almost to the antechamber and had some weird thing happen, uh, or or the room that I picked that was going to connect did not connect in the way that I thought it was going to. So it's like the nature of the way that that works. I have not necessarily figured out just yet. Maybe that'll be a revelation at some point. But yeah, it's a very cool game. I look forward to
Mm-hmm.
playing some more of it. But yeah, it's on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus. If you have those, so worth checking out.
Mm.
The last game I have is Ixion. I got a code for this. It is you've played Frostpunk, right, Brandon?
Yep.
This is kind of that, but in a sci-fi, let's say climate change informed universe version of our universe where it's I think starts in like 2049.
Mm-hmm.
Um, right up front, it is not as brutally depressing to you as
Yeah.
Frostpunk is.
Yeah, because Frostpunk is a notoriously like bleak story.
Very much, it's like decisions you're making is like, do you want to cause everybody to have to work crushing overtime, or do you want to kill all the orphans?
Yeah,
It's like,
it's
what the fuck are you talking about? Why are those the two choices?
yeah.
Here, it doesn't really have anything like that, but essentially, you are part of this company called Dolos, who is running this space station. That's you get a really nice intro that of the spaceship kind of launching you up to there, and from there you have this um, essentially rectangular space in this station. Um, the way it's kind of set up is it's like a ring station, and so you have 6 sectors, and you start off with the first sector, and you're kind of having to put these roads around to uh, all these like uh, shelves that are set up already with a bunch of supplies on them, um, mainly different kinds of materials. And you're setting up initially a workshop that allows you to start crafting these different types of buildings and whatnot that you need, and you have to build like a warehouse essentially for each type of item. And so you
Hmm.
start doing that. You can start having these I don't know, vehicles just pull all these materials to your little warehouse thing,
Yeah.
and from there you start having to deal with housing people and all that. And as you go through this tutorial, it's pretty straightforward in how you're all setting this stuff up. You build a mess hall for people to go
Hmm.
eat at, and then you have a warehouse to store all your food. And at a certain point, being kind of a futuristic thing, you build essentially these like insect farms that produce all the food you have.
Hmm.
And the nice thing is that that stuff kind of just keeps going, and as they produce it, it feeds into the warehouse, and you can kind of have it just keep everybody fed for a while.
Hmm.
And building new housing for people as you gather them. And
Hmm.
the tutorial kind of just has you building up to turning on this thing that the spaceship, the space station has called the Vol jump, VHOLE jump. And that's kind of where the tutorial ends, is enacting that for the first time. And then you start chapter one, where you have done this full jump, and I forget what they call it. They call it like same space jump or something like that. It's basically seems like some sort of time travel thing that has been that they've come up with. But instead of everything working well, you come back to the moon has been destroyed. It's like in 2 pieces essentially. The Earth has been cooked, essentially, is dried out. Um, Something's happened here. You're not really sure what's going on, and that's where you start getting a little bit of drama, as the people on your ship very much not happy that at the thought of all of their loved ones and humanity on Earth being dead.
Hmm.
So you have to like pledge to send out ships to the Earth and like investigate. And so on your dock, you have a science ship, a cargo ship, and a mining ship. And eventually, you build like a probe launcher that can send out probes,
Hmm.
which is where you go to find the where the other planets are at, um, as well as comets and such that have iron on them, or whatever materials you need on that, as well as some other places throughout the solar system that are trying to do a lot of the story stuff, and it gives you a lot of text when you send out your science ship to deal with all the like quest stuff that are on these different planets and such. You find
Hmm.
like, oh, something happened, and Dolos was blamed on what they call the lunaclism
Hmm.
that happened to the moon, and UN made them or declared them as an enemy of humanity, kind of thing. And you're like, oh, this is pretty neat. Some wild thing happened here. Um, when you kind of go through all this on the Earth, you kind of have a chance to talk to your people on the space station. You're like, you have different options. You can lie about it, be like, oh, then some weird stuff happened. I don't know. Or you can be like, yeah, this seems to be our fault, or something happened related to Dolos. or whatever. And initially when I was playing this, I went and I think I lied about it, and started building up more things. And as you go, the trust in you, the corporation or whatever who's running this, starts dipping a bit. But things keep going just fine.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much one of those games as you get wrinkles and more mechanics added to your list of things you have to do and all that. It gets tougher to figure out like, okay, wait, what? How am I doing this? What is this? Because this is a PS5 and Xbox Series X and S. It's a PC game that came out I think 2 or 3 years ago.
Mm.
So it's a very much a PC game that you're playing on consoles because you have a cursor that you're moving around. Um, I've had to turn up the sensitivity on it a bit to get a little bit faster. But they do a pretty good job with the UI to let you kind of bounce around to the different parts of it to see like information on the health of the the space station and your how the people on board are doing, and managing when you start having accidents, because if you fall below the number of workers you're supposed to have in each sector, the chances of accidents go up. So just start having accidents left and right, and having more people that need to go into the hospital, and number of people dying, all that kind of fun stuff starts happening. It starts piling up and up. In the meanwhile, the hull has been damaged, kind of irreparably. At least there's a chunk of the bar that you cannot fix just yet. So you just kind of need to keep repairing it and keep it as good a shape as you can. But then you start running to points where um, people don't like what's going on, so they start striking in these different uh, you know things that are going, different factories and whatever you have people working at.
Mm.
That kind of stuff starts happening. So those become inoperable for a bit. You have some machines that are oh yeah, the some of your factories essentially just generate trash, and that reaches a maximum point that has to kind of shut down for a bit to take care of the trash. So you get like a little bit of point of that kind of stuff. But also you get points where the people on board are like, "Hey, we don't like this thing that's going on. Can you take care of this?" And it'll be like a mission that you need to complete. And be like, "Oh, this hull looks real fucked. We need to get this fixed." And they're like, "Oh, people keep striking. This is gonna screw everything and all this." And yeah, kind of just run into a point where it's like all this stuff is sliding downhill pretty quickly. So the nice thing it does is let you restart the chapter, and so you can easily kind of take like, okay, I know a lot of the shit that can happen here, so uh, I'll restart and kind of have that stuff in mind to know how to kind of counter program it a bit. That was also where they wanted me to open up another sector, which just requires you having enough of different materials, enough people, enough food, and alloy, and this other stuff that you need to open it up. And the way that all works doesn't really make much sense right away. So luckily, when I restarted the chapter, things went a lot more smoothly. When it got to that point to needing to open that up, it made a lot more sense how it all works.
Mm.
Um, and I did a stream of this, and got to a point where I was like, man, it should be pretty easy to have these materials that I'm needing to manage, like share in between. And I figured out like, oh, there's this uh, thing for managing your inventory, and it's like you can have it essentially say like, all right, keep 150 this in the first sector, and everything else just ship to the second sector,
Mm.
and it all makes that much easier. You have your mining ship going out and mining asteroids and whatnot where you need to go, and you can tell like, okay, the priority thing should be ferrous for iron. Just if you see any of this, do this right away, or else you can have I think three other levels of main priority. There's like a secondary priority, a small priority, and then just no priority. You just don't want them to bother with that stuff, and you kind of just let the mining ships
Mm.
just go around and do what they want, because they're just gonna follow your orders and do what you need to. and then you have your cargo ship that goes and collects the stuff that's mined or on the different planets you're doing your missions on.
Mm.
Often at the end, it'll be like, okay, at the end of this, there's this much of this material and this material and this material, and the cargo ships will go around and pick up that stuff and bring it back. And as you have everything kind of working pretty well, um, that stuff will get uh, pulled up to the warehouses you have set up for that. And I have one for cryogenically frozen people, and you have a little cryo center that um, thaws them out and brings them back into the workforce
Mm-hmm.
for that. And you can say like, hey, send the workers over to this sector because I need more workers over here, kind of thing, and dealing with all of that. And yeah, it has a lot going on. It's much more in depth in the management stuff than Frostpunk was,
Mm-hmm.
because I feel like Frostpunk was very much like you put this thing here, and then that's where it's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
You don't really have a ton of management of tearing things down. It's just like, I hope this worked out because otherwise this run's going to go to hell at some point. You just start over and try again with what you know, kind of thing. Whereas this has a lot more city builder stuff to it. Um, Maybe the one thing I wish I could do is like move buildings around more easily. You kind of just basically have to either build a second one and then destroy the first one,
Mm-hmm.
or um, destroy it and hope you have enough materials and room for where you want to put the new one at, kind of thing. That was
Mm-hmm.
like one of the major issues is I put stuff down where it seemed to make sense at the time and then realize, oh, the things I'm unlocking through the tech tree are much bigger and require special room, and did not have room for that stuff so easily. So I had to make like various decisions of like, shut down these warehouses so I can have more room for this thing. And yeah, it's a lot of stuff you learn from your first time taking on new mechanics and such as they go on for that. So yeah, this is a very cool game. It's got a lot going on. It has some pretty good tutorial stuff, um, and pretty good like section of the menus just for here's all the stuff that's explained to you, and if you need to refer to it again, you
Mm-hmm.
can go through all this and learn more, um, figure out things that maybe didn't realize were going on. So
Mm.
yeah, it's a very cool one of these. It's out now, $35 for it, so it's a pretty solid price for that. And I think the like near future sci-fi stuff is working pretty well. I'm basically at the point where I'm going to make my second vol jump, which I assume means I'll be starting chapter 2. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of doing some other stuff first, just to kind of make sure everything's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, you can like move the space station around the solar system, and while it's doing that, all of your battery stuff is off. People really don't like that, so you'll start losing trust in that if you don't have things prepared. Like I was in the middle of uh, researching the battery for that, but I didn't realize what that all worked on, like how that all worked together. And it's like, oh, this would have been better to have before that. I was like, I'll just move it. We'll just suck it up for however many cycles that it takes to get here, which it worked out just fine from there. But yeah, kind of one of those cool games that I've been enjoying, and it's very much one of those kind of time wasters that you just sit down. And you're like, okay, I'll get this done, and then oh, this one's almost done. I'll just wait a little bit for that. And oh, this one's almost done. I'll just wait for that. And then a couple hours go by, and you're like, well, shit, I was hoping to do something else, but I've been playing this for 3-4 hours now, kind of thing. So it's got that kind of good vibes to it. So yeah, that's
Mm.
Ixion. Pretty cool game, but that's been pretty much it for me. So how about you, Brandon?
Well, my gaming has largely been taken up by a I call it the secret game, and it's because I'm still under embargo and I'm still a ways from being allowed to talk about it. But um, all I will say is, when I was playing it, I started playing it last week when I got the code, and as I was playing it, I was thinking, why is the embargo like so far out in advance? Because it looks like I'm just about wrapping this game up, and then boom, it hits you with this enormous curveball right up at the 11th hour, and you suddenly realize, oh, that's why. So, yeah, the game ends up being far larger than I thought it was going to be. But honestly, I can't wait to be able to get to talk about it because I have been enjoying the hell out of it. But on top of that, I have also been still playing more Shadows of Doubt, which, of course, is the amazing randomly generated detective noir game where everything is made out of voxels. And, I'm still continually amazed at how this game works and how it operates because it still always manages to generate these new scenarios that end up being weirdly intricate in ways you would not expect. And always giving you like so many options on how to go about it. I will say though, the one issue I've been having is when it comes to like interacting with things like phones um, or things of that nature that involve having to use a keypad. Partly because and this was up until fairly recently, you had to like individually point the cursor at the individual keys on the actual like phone asset itself. But they changed that to where like now there's like a generic keypad that comes up on the screen and you can just directly use that, so it's not an issue anymore. But yeah, that game still manages to just continually impress the hell out of me at just how good quality it is. And yeah, I still very much recommend it for anyone who hasn't played it yet. The other game I've been playing a lot is called The Citadel. This is I hate using this term, boomer shooter, that is essentially like a very heavily based and inspired around like 80s cyberpunk anime where you're playing this woman on, I think is Mars, who's on this colony where she's like a clone of like along with like a bunch of other clones, all of them doing like different functions. And for whatever reason, you've decided that it's time to rise up, face off against the person who is the ruler that apparently you were cloned from and kill them. And through it, you're sort of given like these general sort of world building, kind of similar to like how the old Marathon games were like. And you also run into the occasional NPCs who will give you like, power ups and, new objectives and stuff. And also places where you can shop and get like new equipment when you've got the money for it. This game is fun and it is also insanely difficult. Like Doom, OG Doom itself could be very difficult, and Doom 2 especially so. This game is very much of the Doom 2 quality. Because unlike in the original Doom, where it was on a relatively sort of flat plane where you're going from like corridor to corridor, in this one, it's much closer to Doom 2 with all the like outside portions of that game where there are enemies up on buildings and in rafters and stuff firing down at you, and they can shred through you very quickly. So on top of general fighting in the game, your general first person shooter type stuff, there's also a whole lot of running and dodging and going for cover as well. On top of that, and also important to point out that the range that both you and your enemies have as far as attacks go is a very, very long way. So if you're a visible pixel on the screen and they're a visible pixel on the screen, they can and they will shoot at you. Also, this game is about as gory and violent as Brutal Doom is, with all kinds of limbs flying everywhere and organs splayed out, and just it is gruesome. But it's a lot of fun, though. I'm definitely enjoying it. But yeah, that's what I've been playing.
All right, so yeah, let's get to some news.
Mm-hmm.
And first up here, we have the April PlayStation Plus game catalog
Mm-hmm.
lineup here, which has one unfortunate addition for PS Plus Extra and Premium here.
Yeah.
The big game is for the PS5 and PS4, Hogwarts Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have been wanting to check that out, you can.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll be skipping it still,
Yeah.
particularly because J.K. Rowling is kind of escalating her anti-trans whole thing, where now she's going after.
Asexual people for
Yeah,
some weird ass reason.
she's found out there's more letters on that on the LGBTQ.
What the? I'm like, lady, what the hell is your problem? Like,
She's rich and has nothing else to do but hate
yeah,
people. So yeah, that's the fun thing.
yeah. See, this is why caps on wealth are something that need to happen. Because apparently there
Yeah,
does, if with all the examples we've gotten from both her and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Zuckerberg and all these other billionaires, it seems that once you get to a certain point of wealth, you basically get so completely bored with your life that you essentially just start shit to feel something.
yeah. And she's specifically said the money she gets is just going into fighting this stuff. So
Yeah.
let that be a guide for you if you care about the things she is going against.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe don't support her.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, let's see here. Available now, Blueprints, as I mentioned, that is available
Yep.
now. I
Yeah.
believe there's one other game here that also was available as of the 10th. I believe it's yeah, for the PS5, EA Sports PGA Tour,
Mm-hmm.
because the Masters is happening this past weekend.
Mm.
So that is well, that's available for. So yeah, you can check that out.
Yep.
Fun thing when you play that game and get your EA accounts attached on there.
Mm-hmm.
They sign you up for the newsletter for the Masters.
Mm.
So I got emails like, oh, the Masters is coming up. Here's information about that. And it's like, oh,
Mm.
okay, I guess, yeah, sure, that makes sense. They would sign you up for that because that's the big thing they have
Mm-hmm.
separating from the 2K series.
Mm-hmm.
It's like we got the Masters. Like, all right, they got all the majors, but Masters particularly is the big one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. That's the other one that's already available now.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is available on the 15th
Mm.
here. So yeah, that's Hogwarts Legacy, Lost Records, Bloom and Rage Tape 2
Yep.
will
Which
be available.
I am anticipating that one.
So you can finish
Because
the story.
so I can finish the fucking story. Because they decided to leave it on one hell of a cliffhanger.
And it seemed very much like they kind of cut it in half, essentially, and just like, we'll just leave you on this cliffhanger and just
Mm.
like, oh, you have to wait 2 months.
Yeah.
Like, all right, great. But I'll probably start the first one this week and jump into the second one when that's done.
Mm-hmm.
Make it a little easier. But there you go.
Mm-hmm.
For PS4, Battlefield 1, if you have not gotten that game yet, that game literally goes on sale for like $1 or $2
Mm-hmm.
every so often on PSN because EA just sells their older games for pennies on the dollar basically at this point.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's one that's probably one of the last good ones that most people liked, that most fans of the
Mm-hmm.
series liked,
Yeah.
because it has a lot of the same good stuff to it.
Yep.
Before it starts changing a little bit, enough that's annoyed Battlefield people.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. Let's see, for PS5 and PS4, Plate Up. This is one of those kitchen restaurant management games.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of roguelite elements to it where you can play with up to 4 people, manage this, and has a little bit of overcooked to it, but it's a little
Mm.
bit less chaotic than that. Like it's more managing how you're making stuff and getting it out to people that are actually sitting, at tables and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe you know, design how to improve the restaurants, add more room, add more tables, all that kind of stuff. That's a pretty solid game from what I played of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one you can check out.
Mm.
And that's it for everything that's on extra. For premium,
Yep.
they have for PS5 and PS4 Alone in the Dark 2.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that's the PS1 game.
Mm.
I'll double check here. Let's see. That was, yeah, came to the PS1 in '96.
Mm.
As Alone in the Dark, Jack is back in Europe.
Mm.
But renamed Alone in the Dark, One-Eyed Jack's Revenge.
Mhm.
They're just calling it Alone in the Dark 2, the original name for it. So there's that. That one you can check out.
Mm.
The PS2 for PS5 and PS4, War of the Monsters.
Mhm.
A very good game. It's one of those fun, local multiplayer party games kind of thing. That's just a lot of kaiju stuff, fighting giant robots,
Mm.
giant monsters. You got your, King Kong style, um, giant gorillas and
Mhm.
uh, giant lizards and all that kind of fun stuff. So, yeah, that is one of those games that is one of the nice gems on the PS2.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Incognito Entertainment that made up a bunch of other cool stuff.
Mm.
Interesting when this one came out, January 2003. So yeah, that's cool. They did a remaster of this on the PS4 that doesn't really work super well on PS5 at this point.
Yeah.
Um, this is nice to get a new version of that.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a cool one. So yeah, it's a pretty solid list there. Maybe one black eye there, but everything else seems like pretty solid games
Mhm.
for this month. So yeah, that's stuff you can check out.
Mm. All right. Sounds great. I'm definitely putting gonna download Blueprints probably tonight because I gotta see for myself what this game is like.
Yeah, definitely good to get a couple runs in,
Mhm.
kind of get a handle on what the game is,
Yeah.
and try to figure out what your strategy is going to be.
Yep.
So let's see. For Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack, the Genesis app got 3 new games.
Mhm.
And I feel like these are three fairly straightforward Genesis games that have been in. At least 2 of these have been in a number of Sega collections. East SWAT City Under Siege,
Mhm.
which is sort of a what is that? Is that just basically a brawler thing, a beat 'em up? I forget what that one
Mm.
is. I want to say it's like a futuristic crime fighter thing. I don't remember it being all that good whenever I played it. But there's the classic Streets of Rage, very good game, and Super Thunderblade,
Mhm.
which is yeah one of those. This is one of those what isometric vehicle shooter games. No, this
Mhm.
is okay. This is the behind the back kind of. Yeah, it's a little hard to describe, but yeah, like Space Harrier kind of thing. But
Mhm.
instead of a dude running around with a big fancy weapon, it's a helicopter thing. So
Mm.
some decent games there.
Mm.
You have that, but I feel like 3 games that have probably been on many of those Sega collections
Mhm.
over the years. So there's that. Those are available now.
Mm.
But things that are coming up here. Found out that Logiart Grimoire is coming to the PS4 on April 24th.
Mhm.
From Jupiter Corporation, the maker of the Picross games. This is their first release on PlayStation since the PS1.
Mm.
Um, yeah, they released a game called oh boy, what Wagamama Fairy Mirumo Depon Mirumo no Mado Gakko Monogatari. For the original PS1, it was a Konami published game.
Mhm.
Um, that's the last one they've done, but yeah, this is developers mostly made their games for the Nintendo platforms, and more recently have put a couple games on PC as well. But yeah, Looking at Grimar is a game that made my game of the year list last year. I think it was
Mm.
number 10. Feeling like it was one of the best of the Picross style games they've done in a long time.
Mm.
Particularly because the puzzles you can kind of mess with the assist stuff to let it be as hard as possible, or you can turn them on if you need help. A lot of good options there, and so yeah, that'll be out on April 24th for $20.
Mhm.
Pretty solid price, and yeah, unlike their Picross games, which will essentially double the number of puzzles you have because they present you the same basic number of puzzles in The regular Picross mode and Mega Picross mode. This one just has um, a much bigger number of unique puzzles that you work on. The way that you unlock them is a little weird and sometimes just hard to parse, but you can also have accessibility options to make that a little easier too. So,
Mm-hmm.
but that's one to check out. That'll be out here in a couple weeks. So there you go.
Mm-hmm. All right.
We got a couple more games here coming out in May.
Mm.
First one is Nice Day for Fishing. I talked about this a little bit back. I played the demo on Steam Next Fest, and it's a pretty fun little concept of a game where you are a fisherman NPC that um, part of this weird thing that happens in this MMO that kills all the player characters, and you end up getting turned from an NPC into a player character and become the one that has to save the
Mm-hmm.
game world. That has a really nice style of writing to it, and the gameplay mechanics are pretty interesting because it integrates
Mm.
that fishing into the combat system
Mm-hmm.
to it, and it's pretty neat. But yeah, this will be out on May 29th for PS5, Switch, and PC
Mm-hmm.
for $20 from publisher Team 17. So that's one to keep an eye on. So there's that, and on May 30th, a game that's been on Nintendo Switch for a couple of years here, Disney Illusion Island, is finally coming to more platforms.
Mm.
Yeah, PlayStation, Xbox, and PC on May 30th. So yeah, that's coming out alongside of big updates that they are calling what's the cave yeah, it's like cave adventuring scavenger hunt thing.
Mm.
Lets you hunt for permanent upgrades with the help of Scrooge McDuck.
Mm.
And a new ability called Dig. Uh,
Yeah.
Dig Cache, I think it is. I guess it's called the Cache update. So yeah, that's cool. More people can check this out. That's one I've
Mm-hmm.
been wanting to check out, but I didn't really want to buy any more Switch games. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'll be able to actually check this out in a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that'll be cool to see.
Mm.
We do have one more game that's coming out in May. Does not have a date yet.
Yeah.
This is Spray Paint Simulator.
Mm-hmm.
They just announced it was PC only, but then they announced Xbox and PlayStation versions that are coming out. I guess it'll also be on Game Pass whenever it launches. This very much has uh, the Power Wash Simulator style of the way it works. But instead of cleaning things, you are painting vehicles for people or houses or whatever other jobs they will present. The demo that they had on Steam had two different jobs to it. I did the first one, and then there's like a free roam mode, which just lets you kind of walk around and just spray paint houses and whatever you want to do. But the spray paint gun you have is very similar to the way the power wash uh, stuff you do in Power Wash Simulator, how that controls. So it's changed just enough to be a little annoying, but I'm hoping that you can remap that stuff and make it work a little more the way it does there. But yeah, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you definitely do have to, um, lay down wrapping paper around things you don't want to get painted and use tape on that to cover up things that should not get painted, that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So there's a little bit of prep work you have to do before you start painting things, but it seems pretty neat. I'm curious to play some more of that, and yeah, that'll be out in May. They don't have a specific date, but I assume that'll probably be announced pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there you go. That's a fun little looking game
Yeah.
for your May stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got June. The Xbox Games Showcase will be happening
Mm.
during that weekend of Summer Game Fest. I believe this is a Sunday on June 8th.
Mm.
Yeah, that'll be on Sunday, June 8th. They'll have the main showcase, and then sort of like they did. Um, was it last year the Starfield thing, or was that the year before? Last year, I think was Black Ops 6.
Yeah.
And they had Starfield the year before that. This year, they're featuring The Outer Worlds 2.
Mm.
What time is this? 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern time for the main
Mm-hmm.
showcase. So I assume that'll go for like an hour or an hour and a half or whatever, and finish up with Outer Worlds 2.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be curious to see because I like that first game, but it also felt like if you played it like a Fallout game or an Elder Scrolls game, you kind of made it way easier for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You just ended up with a bunch of guns and ammo for them and all that to just made everything kind of super easy
Mm-hmm.
and kind of made the world feel less interesting as a result. So I'm curious to see what they're doing to make that better for a sequel. So we'll see
Mm.
how that goes. But yeah, that'll be fun to see.
Yeah. All right. I am looking forward to the Outer Worlds too. I did like the first Outer Worlds. Um, I want to see if if they've managed to but further the formula a little further.
Yeah,
Honestly, one of my biggest issues with Outer Worlds was that it was for the game that it was a surprisingly short experience.
yeah,
I mean, there was a lot to it, but the overall game campaign was extremely short.
yeah. Kind of made it feel a little shallow.
Hmm.
But yeah, there you go. Let's see. We got a few more dates here. Date everything will be out June 17th. That's their new date. As they've had a few at this point and have delayed to make sure they get the game in perfect state for launch. So it seems like they are finally ready. Hopefully that works out for them. Because yeah, they're coming out at a pretty decent time.
Hmm.
There's not a ton out in June. Trying to see where I have my list here for releases. Yeah, the 17th is Tron Catalyst week, which is not really a ton there. Yeah, that's and Rhino Remastered, so that is a pretty good week to come out.
Hmm.
Be the main big new interesting thing. So
Hmm.
there you go. That is the kind of dating sim
Yeah.
visual novel thing that's lets you date everything in a house that you're locked in.
Hmm.
Fun
Mm.
times.
Yeah.
So there's that. Yeah, we had Mafia: The Old Country. Accidentally get a date. I think 2K accidentally published this in a uh, post on Steam. Accidentally put the date in there, announcing it that it'd be out August 8th. Because I think they were probably going to announce it at the PAX East panel they were announcing in that blog post on May 8th.
Mm.
And so, yeah, that's they changed it pretty quickly, but obviously at that point, people taking screenshots to see it, and yeah, seems like that'll be out August 8th towards the end of the summer. So, probably a solid time for that game to come out.
Hmm.
Let's see how that one turns out, because that could be cool to kind of take the Mafia series into the old country in Italy and see how they do things over there. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see. We have a new date for Inazuma 11 Victory Road,
Yep.
August 21st.
Mm.
They also announced that it's coming to, let's see, PS5, PS4, Xbox Series, X and S, Switch, Switch 2, and the PC on August 21st. So they're going to hit
Hmm.
everything. They'll have cross play and cross save support. Um, Seems like they're no longer playing mobile versions of this game, at least not at the
Hmm.
moment. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see. It'll be $70 for launch with
Hmm.
some special editions if you want
Yeah.
for that. So yeah, that could be pretty cool. Inazuma 11, I played the 3DS game. That was
Hmm.
pretty neat. So I'm curious to see how this one takes things to the consoles.
Mm.
So yeah, there you go.
All right.
Level 5 needs games to come out.
Hmm. Seriously.
So yeah, there you go for that one. Let's see. Yeah, Bungie had a big stream yesterday talking
Hmm.
about Marathon, a game that they've had in the works for quite a while now.
Hmm.
Um, Showed off a bunch of gameplay and all that. As They had like an hour-long stream, but also had broken it down into a number of smaller trailers, just showing you some gameplay and whatnot to it. And it looks pretty cool. They also announced the date, September 23rd. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
they've announced anything about whether they're going to charge for this game or not. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of talk about that, whether it should be free to play or if they should charge for it. I imagine we'll find out at some point in the near future. They seem like they'll have a closed alpha test
Mm-hmm.
later this month. If you go to the Marathon Discord that the Bungie is running for
Mm-hmm.
that, so maybe it'll get in to check it out. Um, but yeah, instead of the way the previous Marathon games have been, this is um, a kind of new thing for Bungie is an extraction shooter,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is a genre that people have wanted to see when it would actually blow up and get on the same level as like a battle royale genre kind of thing. But none of the games that have gone for that have really broken through into the mainstream
Mm-hmm.
just yet. But Bungie could very well be the team that would be the ones to do it,
Mm-hmm.
as they have tons of people that have loved their work since the original Halo and the Marathon games, even before that,
Mm-hmm.
as well as Destiny stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and this game seems to have a lot of really neat looking style to it
Oh yeah.
and all that. I'm curious to see some more of this because yeah, it could be pretty cool if
It
it
can
plays out as
be.
well as they seem to hope it will be.
Yeah, and it can turn out to be really good. I just there is something to the whole idea that they're turning Marathon into yet another, or they're taking the Marathon license and they're essentially turning it into yet another competitive shooter rather than the story driven uh, games that the original ones were. But if they can successfully like combine that with like the storytelling the original Marathon trilogy had, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, maybe they'll pull it off. I don't know. I mean, Bungie has pulled off some amazing games in the past. I just, we'll see. We'll see. That's all I'll say. We'll see.
yeah. This is set on Tau Ceti, with the same planet that the original games were on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's neat to see. But yeah, kind of wanting to see more of this and how they're going to present this to people as like a free to play game or paid or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. But yeah, looks neat. Always rooting for Bungie because it would be certainly a shame to have this be a huge failure and just kind of lead to the end of Bungie. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
one of the most prolific developers we've had in this industry for the last 25 years.
Yeah, and long lasting too. Like these guys have been around since the OG Mac days.
Yeah,
They've been around a long time.
yeah. So yeah, we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, that'll be out September 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
So certainly poised to be one of the early uh, big games for the holiday season,
Mm-hmm.
depending on how GTA 6 decides to plop themselves into that whole time frame.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. But yeah, we got a couple more industry stories here before
Yep.
we get to some other things.
Yeah.
First up here, probably one of the bigger ones, is that the Molasses Flood, developer that the CD Projekt Red purchased a handful of years ago,
Mm-hmm.
have decided to fully absorb them into their parent company.
Yep.
Um, they worked on trying to see here with the Flame and the Flood and Drake Hollow before they
Yep.
were acquired by CD Projekt Red, and then they
Mm-hmm.
worked on some of those spin-off
Yep.
games set in the Witcher universe.
Ironically, because the Molasses Flood was founded by people who originally were part of CD Projekt Red.
Yeah,
So they essentially just reabsorbed all the people that used to work for them.
yeah. Um, which then has led to seems like a number of people maybe leaving the studio
Mm-hmm.
as a result of this reorganization. Though the heads of the studio basically announced like that's going to break down some organizational barriers and better integrate the TMF team into the rest of the amazing CDPR organization.
Mm-hmm.
But a number of people, it seems like probably got buyouts options if they wanted to leave. So yeah, it seems like they are losing a number of people, but this will be the people who are sticking around are gonna still
Mm.
work on things, but maybe more directly working on The Witcher 4 or whatever. Um, I don't know. There's not a ton of solid info on that, but yeah, it's sad that the team essentially is not gonna really be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
The games they worked on, The Flame in the Flood and Drake Hollow, are still gonna be uh, available to buy or whatever
Mm-hmm.
if you want. But yeah, otherwise they're probably not working on any more independent games.
Yeah, more than likely.
So yeah, that's essentially the end of that studio as an independent entity.
Yep.
So yeah, there you go.
Mm.
Sad to see.
Sad. Yeah.
Hopefully, it leads to some solid work for the people that do stick around.
Mm-hmm.
Would hate to have this happen and be like, oh, layoffs. The rest of them
Yeah.
get laid off. So yeah,
Yeah.
there's that.
Mm.
Let's see. Then we got some Microsoft news because they still are dealing with AI.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they've used their new AI tool to essentially create a playable demo inspired by Quake 2
Mm.
that is shit, basically, from what I've seen of people playing it. There's people that may know the specific levels that this demo has.
Mm.
And see how like it's imagining enemies being around and just creating like these hunks of like terrain that are in the shape of enemies and such that don't do
Mm-hmm.
anything.
Yeah.
Like they also specifically run into one point where there's like, oh, there's this little side area you can go to get some like extra health or whatever. It's like a little sectioned off room. You
Mm-hmm.
just go in and like let the camera focus away on this, turn
Mm.
around, and it blocks you off
Yep.
because it doesn't remember that this was a path.
Mm-hmm.
And then you locked yourself into a room essentially because of the way that this AI shit works.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, this is shit. It doesn't create an actual game. There's no reason to try to present this as like, oh, we can make Quake 2 in this, and it's like
Mm.
a barely functional one that doesn't really produce anything that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
It just you can clearly see that it has the general idea of what Quake is, but it doesn't know how to create a cohesive game.
Yeah.
It's just reading like video and basic level design that it's been fed and just kind of creates a hodgepodge of messy bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this is just more of a sign that this AI shit that Microsoft's been touting will change things. Is probably not going to do anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very fun stuff. So great job,
Yeah.
Microsoft. But yeah,
All right.
there you go.
Okay.
Let's get to some Nintendo Switch 2 news because there's been a bunch of that.
Mm-hmm.
First up here, we had another game that got announced from Nitro, who's made a
Mm-hmm.
number of Switch exclusives, as well as some stuff like Shovel Knight Dig. They announced a new game called Mousework for the
Mm.
Switch 2. It's a 4-player party game that uses the Joy Cons as mice
Mm-hmm.
for that, which looks pretty neat for what it is. I don't know that I'll be checking it out, but got some nice style to it and all that.
Mm-hmm.
For these different like mini games that it's challenging you to play around with. So
Mm.
yeah, that looks neat.
Yeah, it does.
Yep. Let's see. We found out that the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour will be $10, particularly because Nintendo thinks they've put enough work into it to charge that much for it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, sure, but also it would have probably been very nice as a free game to kind of be a fun way to play around as you learn about the capabilities of the the new Joy Cons and the Switch and all that.
Mm.
But yeah, luckily not a huge price, but it's still a price that isn't free.
Mm.
That's what people would expect out of this product. But
Mhm.
it's at least better than what they did with 1-2 Switch, which is charged $60 for it.
Mhm.
So yeah, there you go. Kind of one of the things that got people mad, and it's like, yeah, this sucks, but
Mm.
it's also $10 for what's supposed to have some decent um, mini games and such on it as well. So
Mhm.
might be a fun little thing to play around with for a bit. We'll see. So yeah, there you go for
Mm.
that.
Yep.
Yeah, there was a weird rumor that went around that the Switch 2 editions, the physical versions, were just essentially a card with the base game on it, but a code for the upgrade pack,
Mhm.
which I think came about because somebody decided to ask the Nintendo customer service people about this thing.
Mhm.
I don't know why people decide to do that stuff. They don't know any more than PR, or as much as PR does.
Mm.
But they're generally required to answer people's questions, so they try to do what they can. And this
Mm.
time, they gave him an answer that wasn't right because they didn't know the answer. It seems like the versions that they are selling physically will be having the full game and
Mhm.
the upgrade pack stuff on there as well,
Mm.
at least for Nintendo's offerings.
Mhm.
The third party ones may not, but that is up to the publisher themselves
Mhm.
versus being, one of those game key card situations. But yeah, it seems like that. Fortunately, it's not going to be the case for what this, at least Nintendo's offerings will be.
Mhm.
Although, as part of that, we found out that Breath of the Wild Switch 2 edition will not be like a complete edition with all the DLC on it.
Mm.
It'll just be the base game with the upgrade pack that makes it run better and look better a good bit,
Mhm.
um, which is not really a huge surprise because they haven't really ever claimed anything. But a lot of people were expecting them to just be like, well, of course, you roll in the DLC and make that a pretty easy package to
Mhm.
recommend. But instead, you'll have to pay up for the expansion pass that they have sold. So if you already own it, then you don't need to pay anymore
Mhm.
for that when you do the upgrade. Just the $10, I assume it is,
Mm.
for that upgrade. But yeah, if you haven't, you have to pony up. I think $20. I think is what that expansion pass costs.
Mhm.
Um, which if that's too much for you, wait for a sale.
Mm.
It happens every once in a while. If you haven't played Breath of the Wild before, you don't really need that right away.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah.
just wait on it. It'd be nice if Nintendo did that, but I saw Nintendo's done for quite a while at this point, as they've been doing
Mhm.
all these DLC releases, is not really rolling them up into definitive editions that you can get with all the DLC and all that for a
Mhm.
reasonable price. I believe on the eShop it is literally listed as like Breath of the Wild plus expansion pack bundle.
Yeah.
It's very much basic. This is what it is. If you don't like it, too bad.
Yep.
That's Nintendo at this point.
Yep.
Looking at it right now, yeah, $20 for the expansion pass and all that. So yeah, not really too surprising.
Mhm.
Here's the game, the DLC. How's that listed here?
Mm.
Yeah, they just listed as. Oh, this one doesn't even have the bundle for Breath of the Wild. Maybe Tears of the Kingdom has it.
Mhm.
Um, or did Tears of the Kingdom have DLC? That did have DLC, did it not? I don't
Uh.
know. I
Well,
thought it
Breath of the
did.
Wild, I know, did have DLC. Tears of the Kingdom, as far as I know, does not.
Okay, trying to find one of the other ones that has a Switch 2 edition here. Let's see. How would it do that? Okay, Nintendo. That would put all the Nintendo games that would probably work here.
Mhm.
Let's see. Which one of these has DLC? Yeah, that might be the thing. Is I think a lot of these don't really have much DLC to them.
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild might be just the one.
Mm.
So that might be the problem here.
Yep.
But yeah, that's a situation there.
Mm-hmm.
Unsurprising.
Yeah.
But people learn that Nintendo is not the fun-loving, good guy company that they act like they are.
Mm-hmm.
At least not in this way.
Yeah.
But yeah, speaking of pre-orders earlier, we dragged Canada into this, and they had their pre-orders delayed as
Mm-hmm.
well, because they want to align all of this stuff up together, which makes sense. Because yeah, the tariff situation um, has improved slightly in that the Trump administration has paused the tariffs
Mm-hmm.
at the last minute where they were supposed to go into effect, which I'm sure Nintendo's very happy about. But now they seem like they are probably going to announce a new date for pre-orders, and we'll see if the price changes at all for any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when they paused them, they left in place the 10% default tariffs
Mm.
that they had on top of that were going to be added onto with the other tariffs. So there's still a price increase, but it'll depend on if Nintendo wants to eat that or not. We'll see. But the other story we have here is that they seem like they are quickly trying to get as many Switch 2s from Vietnam into the US as
Mm-hmm.
possible
Yeah.
during this pause, because the one caveat to the tariff pause is that China's tariffs are staying.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody else has been paused for 90 days or whenever Trump decides to say it's enough of that, we'll put him back up.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of where we're at. Is he gets something stuck in his brain, he decides to tell people to undo the thing he said he was gonna not do,
Mm-hmm.
and all that bullshit. So yeah, it seems like Nintendo's at least taken the opportunity to get as much stock into the US as possible,
Mm-hmm.
um, and probably into Canada from there,
Mm-hmm.
to avoid as much of the tariffs as possible. At least
Yeah.
have a decent launch here. Seems like we might have. I've seen numbers saying they've gotten 1 million into the US right now already.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see what that
Yeah.
ends up looking like for the launch in less than 2 months, but
Yeah.
Nintendo's probably doing all the math they can and all the politicking they can to see what they can do to avoid paying way more for these switches and
Mm-hmm.
having to pass as much of that cost into things as possible. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's made for a very fun time.
Mm. All right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Just so awesome. The times we are living in.
Oh yeah. I've seen people try to act like Nintendo is the one that's throwing politics into this, and it's like, boy, you don't. That's not how this works. They have to deal with the
Mm.
politics of every region they go into,
Yep.
and Trump's an old piece of shit that whose mind is mush at this point, and
Yep.
thinks he can do whatever he wanted at any time without anybody else having the ability to push back on him,
Mm-hmm.
and it hasn't worked out well for any
Mm-hmm.
of us here in the U.S., especially people that were trying to retire anytime soon.
Yeah.
So yeah, fun times.
Mm.
But yeah, we'll get to the end here. Talk about the Triple I initiative that happened this year.
Yep.
Um, on the 10th, I think it was. A nice little showcase. We're not gonna go into every single game here because there's
Mm-hmm.
I cut out a lot of the stuff that's just like, oh, we got a new update for this game. But
Yep.
there's a decent amount of games here that are interesting.
Yep.
Um, I think this Neverway would probably be your type of game.
Oh, yeah. It's basically, hey, what if Stardew Valley was Eldritch Horror? And
Yeah,
that's basically this game.
yeah. That's coming to PC at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
co-created by the one of the pixel artists behind Celeste. So
Yep.
a lot of good art here,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you like your spooky shit.
Oh, yeah.
So there's
And I
that.
do love spooky shit.
Yep. We had Tears of Metal or Tears of Metal. I'm not sure which one it goes for, but
Yeah.
it's a medieval cooperative roguelike hack and slash action game.
Mhm.
They got an open beta test out right now on Steam
Mm.
until the 17th. I'll probably download that and check it out. That looks
Mhm.
pretty neat though. For that, so that looks neat. There's a link here to a Kotaku article that has trailers for everything if you want to see them. Um,
Yeah.
there's a game called Sacrifier that looks pretty cool here.
Mhm.
That is, yeah, this is a pixel art RPG.
Yep.
Really nice looking thing. It's coming to PC Q1 of 2026 and
Mhm.
may come to consoles later on next year.
Yep.
Looks really neat. Really nice
Oh
style
yeah.
to it and all that. So that looks neat.
Mhm.
Um, let's see. There's Frost Trail that looks pretty cool.
Mhm.
This is an open world survival first person shooter
Yep.
kind of game. Yeah, from the Barrow Trauma developer Fake Fish.
Mhm.
Um, looks really neat. That'll be out in PC early access next
Mm.
year. Um, yeah, just kind of a winter, maybe an endless winter kind of world. So you're dealing with a lot of shooting at people while it's snowing and freezing cold and all that. So
Mhm.
that looks neat. We got the release date for Moonlighter 2: The Endless Vaults narrowed down a bit. It's coming out this summer.
Mhm.
That's PS5, Xbox, PC, and Game Pass. That looks pretty neat.
Mm.
I see what else is on here. Outbound, I believe, is a very cool looking game. This is one that you are essentially kind of driving around in kind of a VW bus type of van.
Mhm.
Um, that you are gathering materials that you can use to upgrade it over time.
Mhm.
Um, and the the trailers they've shown get kind of silly at times, as it looks like
Yeah.
you're adding on like atriums and
Mhm.
uh, other sorts of like rooms onto this thing and
Oh
turning
yeah.
into kind of a makeshift RV of sorts.
Mhm.
And it's just driving around this neat, chill looking environment and all that. That looks pretty cool.
Mhm.
Um, that's one that looks pretty neat. There's a new Heroes of Might and Magic game coming out.
Yep.
Olden Era coming out to
Mhm.
PC, early access sometime this summer.
Mm.
So that's kind of interesting that Ubisoft is finally doing one of those.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, it's a turn-based strategy RPG. Um,
Yep.
that looks neat.
Honestly, that's a yeah. That's a like a license that I don't really hear that much about because like Might and Magic, that's like an old school RTS franchise.
Yeah, very much one of those that spread out in a bit. The other like first-person RPG kind of stuff where you're doing some fun stuff there, and then Ubisoft just stopped making them for a while.
Yeah.
Uh, Closest we got more recently is like the Clash of Heroes, Might and Magic from
Mhm.
Capybara. That was a
Yeah.
very cool game, but very different from everything else that's
Mhm.
been in that franchise. So I see them doing some more older stuff, more older style stuff.
Mhm.
And here's one: Deep Rock Galactic Survivor, the Vampire Survivors style game set in the Deep Rock Galactic universe, is finally hitting 1.0 on September
Mhm.
17th. I'm excited for that. I've been playing it on Steam Deck mostly, and it's a very fun one of these. But you're one of the gnomes that is breaking through rock and
Yep.
get materials and such to upgrade your weapons and all that. So yeah,
Mm.
that's a fun one of those. I would like to see it come
Yep.
to consoles at some point. It would be very fun to play it on PS5 or Xbox, but
Mhm.
that hasn't happened yet. The Altars finally has a date, June 13th.
Yeah.
People can finally play that one pretty soon.
Mhm.
Let's see, what else do we have here? Rematch, the soccer game from the developers of Sifu, Slow
Yeah.
Clap, finally has a date of June 19th.
Mhm.
Let's see, they got a open beta that'll be starting on April 18th that people can check out here
Mm.
pretty soon. It seems like it'll be a $30 game
Mhm.
at launch. I'm curious to see how that one does because it's very much got a Rocket League style
Mhm.
vibes to it for a very arcadey kind of game to
Mhm.
it. So that looks neat. Let's see what else. Vampire Survivors got a very, very dumb updates that looks really
Mm-hmm.
fun. So their new IP tie-in is with Square Enix. Not in
Mm-hmm.
the franchises you would expect. It's with Saga Emerald Beyond,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess it's a free one because I think they said they tried to work out some sort of licensing deal, but both came to the conclusion it would probably just better not to charge for it,
Ah.
which is probably because it's a franchise and not many people would maybe there's not maybe a huge cross section of the Venn diagram for this
Mm-hmm.
between both Vampire Survivors people and Saga people.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's free. That adds some 12 new characters, 16 new weapons, and like has a neat addition of having character parties for this
Mm-hmm.
when playing. I assume just on the Saga map on this, but that's neat. I believe this also is the updates. I forget what else in this update. Yeah, I'm not sure what else is in the update itself. But yeah, that's a bunch of stuff that they've added here. That's
Mm-hmm.
cool. Big new updates. Free DLC, so you have to go to whatever storefronts you're playing the game on and buy it from there. But it's free, so it's not too big of a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, we got Ikuma, the Frozen Compass. That's coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC. This looks pretty neat. It's a narrative adventure game
Mm-hmm.
about a boy and his dog that are stranded in the Arctic. So you got to deal with that. So that's out next year.
Mm.
That looks pretty cool. There's Dusk Fade, which is another game that's coming to PS5, Xbox, and PC
Yep.
next year.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of a 3D action platformer with some Sonic vibes to it. There's a lot of like
Mm.
rail grinding and all that kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that you're doing, but it goes a little more slow at times. This is from the
Yeah.
developer that's made Clid the Snail.
Mm-hmm.
That one looks pretty neat. Let's see what else here. Into the Fire is a cool looking game.
Oh yeah.
They got a good showing. It's sort of an anti-combat action adventure RPG with survival elements to it,
Yeah, you're basically a firefighter, more or less.
but in like ridiculous situations.
Yeah. Kind of reminds me of that old game from like back in the 90s. I think it was called Burning Rangers. It was like made by Sonic Team. It's for the Saturn. But not quite as over the top anime as that was. But yeah, it definitely looks fun.
Yeah. I guess this was originally called Dante's Ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, looks pretty neat. That'll be out in early access sometime later this year.
Mm.
There's a fun looking game that's out right now called Clover Pit for PC that is basically what if you had a roguelite slot machine game, but had the devil be involved in it? What you're doing here, which is a pretty neat idea. So you're trying to use the slot machine to try and get your payouts and all that, and occasionally have some horror demon stuff going on in there.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like a fun little mix. Basically describe it as a demonic love child of Balatro and Buckshot Roulette. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's out later this year with the demo out now, so that you can check that out. There's also another game coming out this fall for PS5, Xbox, and PC. It is called No, I'm Not a Human.
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a horror game, kind of about like an anxiety horror thriller about
Yep.
the being in the end of times and having these like weird alien demon people that mostly look like humans, but you're trying to uh, shoo away the non-humans.
Yeah. Got a very strong like analog horror vibe to it.
Yeah,
Like the whole thing with like making sure that the person's human is like very much out of like the Mandela catalogs and stuff like that. Stuff like stuff like that. Yeah, it's also one of those things like yeah, I definitely want to play this one.
yeah. So yeah, you'll deal with them and try to weed out if they're bad or not, or human or not, and
Mm-hmm.
try not to let the bad ones in. So
Yeah.
there's that. Um,
Mm.
we also got this game called Void Breaker for the PS5, Xbox, and PC.
Mm-hmm.
That has come out to PC later this year in early access, and consoles later on. Has a PC playtest out now. You
Mm.
can check out on Steam, and it looks really nice. It's got some cool vibes to it. Reminds me a little bit of like what if you made like um took like a lot of the cool vibes of what is the Housemarque game Returnal. Like you
Mm-hmm.
got that kind of going on here, but with a first person shooter with a lot of environmental destruction stuff going on
Mm-hmm.
and all that, and maybe more arcadey um, roguelite elements to it as you're like adding elemental things to your shots and combining them with others to make for some wild combinations and such. So it looks pretty neat.
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded the playtest, so I'm probably gonna check it out this week.
Mm.
Then they ended on Katana Zero, reminding you that that game still exists because remember they announced DLC, free DLC that was supposed to be coming to it
Mm-hmm.
um, ages ago, years ago, and they're still working on it. They say they're almost done.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to still be just for Xbox One, Switch, and PC. I
Mm.
was kind of hoping this would be, yeah, PS4 version was rated by the ESRB back in March of 2021, but that never happened. So
Mm.
maybe they'll launch that alongside this DLC.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, they're saying it'll be out soon at some point. But yeah, that's still happening. So yeah, if you remember that game when that was a very cool game,
Mm-hmm.
uh, still is cool, but the DLC is still happening. They haven't
Mm.
forgotten about it, which is wild. Um, Especially at end of showcase like this, be like, we're still working on this. Don't forget about us.
Mm-hmm.
Make themselves the new indie game to worry about every time it shows up in a showcase, like a Silk Song
Mm-hmm.
and all that. So there you go. Fun little showcase, bunch of interesting games
Yep.
here. Um, the only real knock against this like type of showcase, it's a lot of PC only games are like, it'll be out eventually.
Yeah.
There's not a
Yeah.
ton of like solid dates on a lot of this stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
still some interesting stuff to at least keep an eye on for a while
Mm.
because there's a lot more indie stuff to be able to check out at some point in the next couple of years. So
Oh yeah.
there you go. I don't know if you have anything to add, Brandon.
Nope. Other than yeah, a bunch of these games look great, and definitely a few of them that I'm anticipating.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's going to end up doing it for the show this week.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you have anything to add about anything here.
Nope.
All right. Yeah. So thank you to Brandon for joining this week.
Always.
We'll be back next week with a new slate of news. Especially, we might have to do the show early or something because it's Easter
Yeah.
Sunday.
Yep.
We'll have to figure that out. But yeah, that's going to be fun. That's also 420 Easter.
Mm-hmm.
So you got all the religious people, all the people that get the day off, or extra days off for work or school or whatever, and also all the potheads
Mm-hmm.
all together celebrating as one.
Yep.
So yeah, thank you all for tuning in. If you enjoy the show, for let friends and family know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Check out the podcast and see if we lose our minds trying to figure out if Trump ever lets the Switch 2 release here,
Yeah.
or if he tries to take down Nintendo specifically for trying to spite him.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, uh, thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have a good week ahead. We'll see you all next time. Have a good one.
Bye.